we're going to be starting off with Cain and Abel. And basically, like an overview of Cain and Abel is that Cain was basically, they're both brothers, and Cain was the wicked brother of the bunch, and Abel was the more righteous, path following brother. And basically, what Cain did is God favored Abel, and Cain wanted to be just like Abel because he wanted to be favored, and because of that, he took matters into his own hands and he killed Abel. And basically, God already knew Abel was killed by Cain, but Cain didn't know that. So God asked him, he's like, "Where's your brother Abel?" And Cain goes, "Well, I'm not his shepherd, so I shouldn't have to worry about him." Basically,
Brother's keeper.
yeah,
Yeah, or shepherd. You call
keeper.
it either one you want.
And so God could hear Abel's blood calling out from him from the soil, and so God already knew from the start that Cain killed him, and it was all because of jealousy. And that was from Adam and Eve. That was his descendants.
His first two, children.
And yeah.
So when they sacrificed to God, he knew in their heart, Abel was really good and he really wanted to give this to God.
Yeah.
Cain just kind of walked through the motions like, well, this is good enough for God.
Yeah, he was living for the world.
Yeah. And he didn't realize that God already knew. He read his heart, and he actually told him, if you got to defeat sin, you're going to have to, step up and be better. And he tells him that, and he didn't do it.
So. No, he didn't listen at all. He was just walking his own path. He didn't want to do anything, for God. He didn't want to follow any rules. He's kind of a rule breaker. He was a partier,
Yeah.
But Adam did live for 930 years though. He was
before he died. Mm-hmm. He did.
And he had lots of children. Throughout the 930 years, people don't really know, but he actually was there for every single one of his kids, pretty much. Like he was there to see all of his grandsons, all of his descendants, and he was
his great grandsons, his great grandsons,
all of them. He was there for every single one of them. And it's just crazy to think about because imagine if you're 7 generations, from your great.
Yeah, that's probably 7 or 8 generations from he got to see everybody.
Yeah, that's a really long time. Like,
yeah,
that'd be crazy, to have people living that long now.
Yeah, exactly.
But and that just all comes down to like, everybody was living, hundreds of years. It wasn't like now where we only live 100 to 100 and maybe 20 years if you're really lucky.
Yeah.
Like even Noah, he was 500 years old, and he had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Or what was it?
Japheth. I think that's how it's pronounced. Boy, pardon us if we can't pronounce these words.
Yeah,
but you'll get the idea.
Yeah, the names back then are not like nowadays. Let me tell you. But yeah, I'm gonna let you take it over from there.
I'm going to try to go real quick because I'm just going to. The Bible doesn't say much. Doesn't say anything about Eve and the women's side. They kind of just took from Adam up to Noah. And I'm going to just give you some dates when they had their kids and when they died. And that's just the easiest way because you got to remember that they did. They lived 900, 800 years. So they had other sons and daughters, and they had sons and daughters. And so the population of the earth was growing really fast. So Adam was 130 years old when he had Seth. He lived another 800 years after Seth was born, and he had other sons and daughters. So I'm just going to kind of go through these names up to Noah real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. So Seth, he had Enosh. He died when he was 807 years old. Enosh had Kenan, and he died when he was 905 years old. And Kenan had Mahalalel, I think. I don't know how they say that name. But Kenan died when he was 910 years old. And Mahalalel, I think is how it's said, had Jared. So he died when he was 895 years old. And then Jared had Enoch. He died when he was 960 years old. And Enoch was only 365 years old whenever God took him into heaven. He's the only human being that never died. He was such favor with God, and I guess lived an amazing life for God, and that He took him up in there. So, but during that time, the 365 years, he had Methuselah. Now, Methuselah is probably the oldest one, and he died when he was 969 years old. But he had
Lamech.
Lamech, and then Lamech had Noah, and Lamech died when he was 770 years old. So you can see how long all these people, and they had sons, they had other sons and daughters. The Bible doesn't tell their names and stuff. They did just say they had other sons and daughters,
There's
their
a lot of them.
wives, and everybody had them. So uh, the that kind of goes into when the population was getting big like that. I don't know what time period that the Nephilim come in. Now the Nephilim, uh, I never ever heard. I never had anybody really talk about Nephilim, even in church. But doing the studies on it, um, they were basically the fallen angels that went with Satan down to the earth. Now, true angels were never made to have sex, but the fallen angels, since they were in sin and everything, excuse me, they they saw favor in these women of all these parents in population, and they ended up having sex with them because um, they could transcend into like a normal human being, even though they were half angel, they were half human too. And so um, I'll take that back. They weren't half human. They were fallen angels. They had sex with these women, and their children were half angels and half human. And so when they were on the earth and everything, God was really angry because that was such a terrible sin for them, the fallen angels, to continue to do these terrible things. He didn't plan it for that. He actually grieved over it and said he wished he had never made man. That's how much he was upset about it. So the Nephilim, they grew up, all these different lineage from Adam to Noah, had all these children, daughters and wives and sons and them. And uh, they just continued to sin and be wicked. And they never,
They
they,
would never change their ways,
yeah,
basically.
they never, and so God, when it got close to Noah's time, he, he, he the way I interpreted it is he gave them 120 years to repent, this whole world of family, but they never did. And Noah was the only one that he was had favor with, that walked with God and walked like what God wanted in his family. And so when he was going to do the flood, that's when that was the reason why between the Nephilim and just everybody being so wicked, sin from the beginning to then, it just built worse and worse and worse. And
Yeah,
so
and out of everybody, Noah was pretty much the only righteous one because he told everybody, he warned everybody for years, and everybody would point at him, and they would laugh, and they'd be like, what a fool that he's building, such a big boat because he thinks something's coming, and they would make fun of him. They'd be like, oh, Noah's on, building his boat on land. Where's he gonna find the water? Something like that.
yeah,
And yeah, he was the only righteous one, compared to everybody else. And as he was, following in God's footsteps, everybody else was walking the opposite way. And as we know, in the end,
yeah, it comes to the deal.
yeah,
I guess um, whenever Noah was probably around 500 years old, I believe, when he had his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth, I think is how it's
Japheth,
Japheth.
Japheth.
And so, uh, people don't, they like, I never thought about, how long it took to build the ark and stuff. But they say that. It took him 100 to 125 years, I think, or 130 years. So you have to look at, I kind of thought, maybe a year or something, with God's help. But his three sons, they had to actually grow up enough to be, in their 20s probably, to be able to help him build the ark. God, I'm sure, helped. But they spent over 100 years building the ark by itself. Crazy.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Like, just
And
imagine one person, just building that whole that thing. I mean, the boat was
yep,
huge.
yep.
It was about the height of buildings.
I've got
Nowadays.
some dimensions if you want to see
Yeah,
what
let's
that.
hear
All
them.
right. I like this part. Okay, the ark was 400. It says cubics, but when you transfer it over to the footage, it's better for us to do foot. I think I don't know anything about a cubic.
Yeah, that's
So it was actually 450 foot long. It was 75 foot wide, and it was 45 foot high. So uh, to give you an idea, see that it's actually so huge. So if you really think about it, so you can, the only way I can measure, and I took this uh, from, uh, I listened to Alan Nolan and Dr. Barnett and a couple others, and the study Bible that I do have, and it gives you an idea like, think of a railroad car. You could put 522 standard railroad cars in the ark. So just
a lot of
imagine
space.
522 of them sitting in the ark. Because people were like, well, how could they put all them animals and stuff in there, and how could they live, as long as they did? Well, uh, some of the animals, of course, he only took the male and female. There wasn't as many species because we had species grew, into more later on.
Yeah.
So if you took like a standard normal, like a sheep or something, they had each car could hold 240 sheep. So if you had mostly mid animal sizes, just think of how many that would be. Um, and it comes down to really, um, it nearly took all of those, but you have 188 cars that was just for food. So it didn't even have to, it had enough room for all the animals easy. It wasn't even, you know,
Wasn't cramped.
it wasn't cramped. And so they're actually saying it would hold 522, but they only would have used 188 cars to hold all the animals.
So they basically would have had a lot of extra space.
Yeah.
They could have done anything with that.
And they said 104 cars for the food. So, and then another interesting thing about the ark being built, man, I learned so much. So everybody always thinks about the one window that he lets
the bird out and everything.
to check to see if there's land yet and everything. So it says in there, yeah, it's 1 cubic foot or whatever that is. It's not a very big window. The thing is, the ark has 3 levels. So the top level, it didn't have one window. It had windows all the way around, like an open porch thing. And they were all 1 cubic foot, top and bottom sides. So all the way around, and that thing's 450 foot long. So you can see how many all the way around it was. And that was to have air, fresh air. I'm sure some of the animals smelled because they still had to do all that. And some people say that a lot of the animals hibernated, so they really didn't even, had to really deal with. I mean, there was a lot of animals and everything, but a lot of them were hibernated or slept, and so that made it a lot easier too.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because that cuts down on your food usage and everything.
Yeah.
You don't got to worry about that. But and just imagine the amount of diversity of animals. Like you just turn to your right. Was there only 2 of every animal, or was there?
Yeah, it was 2 of every species that had the male and the female, so they could reproduce and after the flood's over, and regenerate the earth. So
Yeah,
And like I said, the species, it wasn't as many, but that's
yeah.
still a lot of animals. Don't get me wrong.
That's like the starting animals, before it branched off into all different kinds of breeds and
Yep.
diversities and all that. But
Um, so I guess you can say that, of course, I'm sure I've seen some other movies kind of this, and I think that's kind of what it is. People made fun of him, probably come out there to see what he was doing, and like, you're crazy. What are you doing?
yeah,
Why are you doing this? And of course, Noah knew God promised him, he's going to save him, and you do this for me, and he's going to do that. And so I think, uh, so when the time, when the Noah was 600 years old when the flood came, so he was already 600 years old. So when God said it was time, um, he said, "You'll he'll bring the animals to him. You get them in the ark." And then God closed up the door for him. And then, and then it started raining and everything for 40 days and 40 nights, and basically destroyed everything on earth. The Nephilim, all of Adam's children, descendants, all the way to Noah, uh, all the all the children, the daughters and sons of all these people, all the Nephilim, all the other wicked people that didn't know God or cared, and destroyed all the other animals. Everything was completely destroyed. Nothing survived at all. Nothing. Just the animals and Noah's family and him. It's unbelievable.
yeah. Just imagine like you're on that big old boat, right? And there's just pure water.
Yeah.
I bet you that water was at least
It
like
covered the highest mountain we got. So Mount Everest is
like set 14,000.
26,000,
Oh,
I think.
26,000.
Yeah, I think it's way up there. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, imagine 26,000
and I
feet of
think
water.
it went above that because he wanted to make sure. I think they said several hundred feet above whatever that is, the highest peak of Everest, and to make sure. And so, and then it took, I don't know how long it took for the water to recede. We probably can, uh, we probably could just on the next podcast, I could look it up and see because I knew it took more than that because he would send out the birds to see if there was land yet, and I know it was several more weeks. I think it was. I don't know if I wrote it down or not.
Sure, it took a minute though, because there was a lot of water.
Yes. Uh,
But yeah, I remember seeing a article, and they like on this mountain they found this whole ship outline, and it's Noah's ship. Like they have the boards are there, like it's all cut out. It's like in there, and it's like you really like what else could that be? That'd be that big, perfect
yeah.
proportions.
Yeah.
Just sit on top of a mountain.
Yeah, they've had several documentaries on that. The and they've gotten to where they won't let anybody go in there anymore, but used to in the early years, they had several people come up there and have, um, you know, checking stuff like that, measurements, and how it, stuff is kind of left in the dirt. Um, so yeah, you can't hide the nose.
No, no, you
The thing
can't.
was huge.
Yeah.
You're talking about uh, the storm and everything. When it was raining like that. So when God, of course, God knew what it needed to be able to handle the waves, and because if it's storming and pouring like that,
Yeah.
it's going to take a while to get to the top of that mountain. So it'd have to be stable, and he knew the right measurements both ways, the width, height, and everything to handle that wave deal. So that's kind of another, you because it had to. He couldn't have for that many time that much longer, and then after to be tossed around really bad.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I
You'd
don't really
never.
see it just
Oh
like
my
getting
gosh,
like
you'd never be able to stand that. I
no.
wouldn't think so. I think that probably. I'm sure it wasn't wonderfully comfortable.
Yeah, but I'm sure it wasn't like
yeah, just tossing and turning. So
Yeah.
I think it was pretty stable for him, and I'm sure it was not just the greatest vacation ride.
Like
so.
he probably thought of all the animals, their weights, like how it would balance it out.
Yeah.
And make it all the right size.
Yeah.
And like if you look at the ark, the whole bottom has this really, really thick thing, so the water wouldn't even, get near the top.
Yeah, and the width of it and everything, 75 foot wide. If you get a tape measure out or something like that, you could like, oh my gosh, that thing.
Yeah.
And as long as it is, they've actually got I don't know what state in the United States it is. I don't know if it's in the mid central of United States where they built an ark, supposedly of the dimensions, and you can go and it has it's kind of like it gives you information about the ark, lets you walk in it. They supposedly have it to the exact specifications that it was in the Bible. It says, and everybody I've ever read on it and that's gone there said it's really something to see, and it's like a real big major thing to makes you really appreciate to see more of it. To me, that's something I'd like to go see sometime.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know what state it's in. I'd have to look it up,
but yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty cool
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, definitely.
But that pretty much sums up everything. And then in episode 4, we'll kind of be continuing off of that. It'll be
we can see what's after. I'll find out how many days they still were in it, and then afterwards, what's kind of going on, and I think the next major part will be like the Tower of Babel, I believe. But we'll study that and look at that and go from there.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
How crazy, with all the different languages when they're
Yep.
building it and everying.
Yeah, all the same, and then they change them. God changes them up.
But we'll get into that in the next one. But thank y'all for watching.
Thanks,
and we'll have a new podcast on Sunday. It'll be uploaded around the same time, And thank y'all. That's it.
That's awesome. That was good. I think we relaxed and